Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Broken Valor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Shink, and I've got a really special episode for you guys today. I'm actually really excited about the guests that I have. The guest that I have on. Another TikToker like the last two. But honestly, I think I'm looking forward to this episode the most out of all of them. Before I introduce our guest, I want to say, as always, this show is sponsored by Anchor FM. Stick around to the end of the episode to learn how you can start making your own podcast with Anchor FM today. Now, with that out of the way, I want to introduce my guest. This is Mr. Aiden Mattis. Is that correct?
Yep, that's how it's pronounced.
Right. So, Mr. Aiden, would you like to tell the audience what it is that you do on TikTok and what you're known for?
Sure. So I essentially do, I guess primarily folklore stuff. So stories about various different myths, legends, monsters, things like that, where they came from, what parallels they have with similar creatures and phenomenon in other countries across the world, and kind of how all of our stories as human beings tend to connect with one another the further you look back into our collective memory. And I started off, I was a medieval studies major in college, and then I tried to make history content. It didn't really go anywhere. Made one video about the national parks conspiracy, and that took off. And I went, all right, if this is what the people want to listen to, if this is what they're curious about, then it's what I'm going to talk about. And it's been going pretty well.
I can say, I mean, that's how I found out about you. I was scrolling through my For You page one day, and I came across one of your videos on, I think it was the Wendigos. I didn't come across anything on the Skinwalkers until later, but that's what drew me in to your content, was like the supernatural element. And as like a Christian myself, I've always been fascinated with those aspects of like these different like spiritual, supernatural creatures and stuff that we really don't know too much about, which was very interesting.
I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong to call them spiritual either, because there's certainly a significant degree of these that would count as spiritual. Like, for example, in a lot of the Pacific Northwestern Native American traditions, Bigfoot is a spiritual being,
Right.
rather than a corporeal being or a undiscovered species of ape. He's in fact an elder brother figure, almost like a forest god, kind of very similar to, for example, the Leshy from Eastern European traditions from like
Right.
Poland and Lithuania.
Right. Now before we get into like the questions and stuff, I have a tradition on the podcast. Well, tradition,
All
I
right.
say very loosely. The audience will know I have in front of me a Mexican Coke from the dollar store down the road, and every week I like to open it
Delicious.
with something different. Week 1 was this crystal that I have sitting over on my desk. Week 2, I had like this little American flag keychain thing, and this week I was trying to find like a cross or something at the dollar store to use. I couldn't find anything, so the best I could come up with this lighter that I had sitting on my desk. The thought process was like the only way to kill like a Wendigo or whatnot is to use fire, so I might as
Mhm.
well use this. I hope it doesn't break because it still has lighter fluid in it. But
It's a bold move.
You gotta do what you gotta do. So let's see if I can get this. All right.
Light mine in solidarity.
Come on. Oh, God. Oh, it's starting to open. It's probably the most difficult one yet. I don't want to accidentally hit the lighter down and burn my hand.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
There we go. Ha
I'm honestly surprised you got it.
Oh, so am I. So am I. All right. I wish I had something that wasn't Coke, but they haven't come in the mail yet.
Yeah,
Let's
Coke is delicious.
get started. I gotta pull those up again. All right. So let's see. I guess we'll start off with which of all the creatures that you've studied is your favorite, either creature or just phenomenon in general, and why?
I think that's got to be a toss-up between, obviously the Wendigo tradition and the stories about that, and probably the Strigoi and similar vampiric legends from Eastern Europe and that region because uh, they they seem to be some of the oldest traditions in the world that we have actual record of. You've got stories about vampire-like creatures from Eastern Europe going back to early Roman times. So that's clearly there was something going on deep deep in our history in that region where people were picking up on it, and whether that was actually some sort of supernatural or preternatural being, or if it was, a cult of people who drank blood. You never know, but I think that that's one of the most interesting ones because that area is so saturated with lore about, blood sucking and, life force devouring creatures.
Right.
So I think that's another very interesting one because for me, what I find most interesting about this stuff isn't necessarily the specific details of any one of these things, but rather the specific shared details that they have with other other creatures and stories from other places. So, like I said earlier, the similarities between the Leshy and the Bigfoot. You know, these, well, I guess in their native language, of the Leshy and the Sasquatch. So
Right.
um, that kind of stuff definitely is probably the most fascinating aspect to me, and it drives me a little bit nuts when I get on TikTok or something, and I'll be talking about Strigoi in one video, and the Tua de Danann in another video, and the Jotnar in another video, and then the second I talk about like the Wendigo, people are on me for talking about Native American folklore while not being Native American, and I'm like, you didn't have a
Oh
problem with
my
it
gosh.
when I was talking about all of these other cultures. I'm not Nordic. I'm not
Right.
Romanian. I am Irish, but
Right.
like,
That's an
you
issue that
know,
I've seen a lot, especially in
yeah,
like American culture. For some reason, is become like you can't talk about any other culture unless you are that culture. Whereas that's not a thing in any other place. Like I've talked
yeah,
to people from Australia, from Japan, from Greece. I've talked to family members from Greece. Nobody says that. They're always like, "Yeah, you can talk about our culture all you want." Now, for Greece, like at least for me, I have a pass in America because I'm
yeah,
Greek. But even then, I've gotten yelled at on TikTok because I made a comment about ancient Greece, and some guys like, you can't talk about that unless you are Greece,
yeah,
unless you are Greek, and I'm
yeah.
like, I am. So that
Well,
was
I
that
like
was
the
weird.
assumptions people make. It's like, they look at you and
Exactly.
they're like, "You're not this thing," and I'm sitting here. I'm part Greek. Like, I don't. I, no, I'm half Italian. Like, look at me. There
Right.
there is no indication here of any of that heritage. But it's.
Right.
I mean, maybe all the hand motions, but
Oh,
aside from that,
definitely. Although
yeah,
Greece does, Greek people also do the hand motions. Like my grandfather is
yeah,
100% Greek, and you can tell because his hand moves no matter what he's saying.
yep.
I have been called
It's.
Native American though. I was
I can see the how people might have that misconception.
um, but I gotta tell you the story. This is off topic, but I used to deliver for DoorDash full time, and while I was delivering an order, this very nice older black lady came out, and she was asking me some questions about DoorDash. And before I got in my car to leave, she asked me if I was Native American. I told her no. She then asked me if I was mixed race African American, which I don't see that at all, but I guess she did. And then I finally told her like I'm Greek, I'm Mediterranean, I'm not African American. I I will not ever claim to be because
Hmm.
that's one thing that gets people riled up the most,
Yeah,
especially in
it's
America for some reason.
it's a weird thing, like for all the people who claim to be so anti, racism and cultural appropriation and all that. I feel like there's a point at which you're exploiting, oppressed or
Right.
indigenous cultures, and then there's like a healthy respect, and that's most of the spectrum. That's like 80% of people who make content about cultures that aren't their own. And then there's the people who are so far on the other side that they're actually just as bad as the people on the first side.
Exactly.
So like, saying, "Oh, well, you shouldn't talk about the Wendigo or Skinwalkers because those are Native American legends, and it's not your place to talk about them." Like, all right, well, I have a platform, and I think these are cool and interesting stories, and they happen to come from the Native American tradition. And so if I were to not talk about them, then all the other people who don't have a platform wouldn't be hearing about them. So like, what do you want? It's
Right.
I have a few people who, and I consciously make an effort to bring smaller creators onto my show and to do stitches and duets with smaller creators on TikTok who have their own kind of thing, even if it's exactly what I do. Uh, you know, th- there's plenty of space for all of us. Like I would be happy to help people grow.
Right.
So, I have yet to say no to a podcast invitation because I'm like, yeah, I'll come on. And if I bring 5 viewers with me, then great, good for you. Like,
Right.
I love to help I want people to be in the space, and if eventually I'm supplanted by, a guy who's Native American who talks about the stuff I talk about, then great, good for
Right.
him. Like, we shouldn't be restricting what stories we tell and what things we find interesting based on our ethnic backgrounds.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
And something
And
that I've seen. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, all I was gonna say is it's because there's a few Native American people who follow me on TikTok who I follow back, who have reached out and messaged me and been like, "Hey, you might be interested. This is what we say about this in my specific tribe." And I'm like, "That is so cool. I never would have heard that had you not reached out. Like, I
Right.
never would have learned that without you." And that's awesome. That's a really cool conversation to have, is when someone can genuinely educate you about something that otherwise you would have never discovered on your own.
Right. Something that I've seen, especially going through and being as active in uh, politics, news, and then supernatural stuff like this, or just in general, is that the people who you think would be the least likely to know something are usually the people with the most knowledge, especially
Yep.
when it comes to like what you talk about with the supernatural. Because you're not part of these tribes, you're not stuck behind one specific barrier of like, this is how we think about it. You're
Mhm.
free to say this is what these people think about it, but what about these people over here? And then you can take
Exactly.
those and put them together. Whereas somebody in tribe A might not want to talk to or talk like consider what tribe B might have to say. And I know there's a
Exactly.
lot of people who don't like that because they say it's cultural appropriation and it's exploiting another culture for views and stuff. But from everything that I've seen, you have a better time of understanding something when you weren't raised up in said thing. Because then you have
Yeah.
to go looking for it, and what you can find might be different from what everyone else sees.
Yeah, exactly. And I see it very much the same way as I see Christianity, for example. I was raised kind of non-denominational, but my stepdad is a Baptist, and my mom was raised Catholic, but has since turned more to the Protestant side of things. And then I went and I got a religious studies minor and a medieval studies degree, and I spent a lot of time in college reading, writing, and thinking about Christianity.
Right.
Um, so I've had some very negative conversations with people, and I've had some very positive conversations with
Right.
people, all of whom were Christians, about Christianity,
Yeah.
because I think there's definitely an extent to which people see Native American cultures and tribes as this thing to be bubble wrapped and kept sequestered away so that we don't hurt it any more than we already have. But you're not going to successfully do that by refusing to talk about it, just like you're not going to mend divides within the church by not addressing them. You're just going to make them worse. You're going to make it more alien to one another. And so
Exactly.
it, like, one of my favorite examples is the Great Schism in Christianity between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. The Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church share almost their entire doctrine. They, up until very recently, refused to talk to each other.
Oh wow.
And when they finally did start talking again, it became very apparent to a lot of people that they have almost the exact same doctrine. So,
Right.
like, and it made a lot of things a lot better. It mended a lot of the political strife that was going on between Eastern and Western Europe, when people no longer had to look across a border and say, oh, well, on that side, they're Catholic, so
Right.
They're not like us. And it's, we saw the same thing in a lot of United States history and in a lot of Western European history between the Protestants and the Catholics. And it's got to be the same thing. We've got to tell each other stories, and we've got to learn about one another, and that's the way that you build respect for various cultures and people groups, is by understanding and discussing and having these open conversations. And I think that one of the biggest uh, arguments that I've seen people get into, and I kind of refuse to get into these arguments. Like, if somebody tries to be like, "Oh, you're white, you can't talk about that," I'm like, "Well, I'm going to anyway, so
Right.
be mad about it if you want to be." But there's a lot of people who aren't mad about it, so I'm gonna,
Exactly.
you know, side with them. Um,
Yeah.
and
Like,
it's one of the things I hear all the time is like, "Oh, well, Native American people," and that bothers me a lot too, because like a Navajo person is very different from an Ojibwe, which is very different from a Delaware, which is very different from a Cherokee. Like, these are
right.
all very different tribes and cultures with different languages and different spiritual beliefs. So to say to lump all of them together and be like, "Oh, well, Native Americans say," like, no, bullshit. Native Americans don't say anything.
Exactly.
Navajo say something, and Inuit peoples say something, and you can get very specific. And they're still being very broad with just those terms, because within each nation you get into each tribe, and within each tribe you get into each family and each chiefdom, and like it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, because everything boils down to the family unit. Depending, no matter what you look for in history, almost all cultures, with the exception of a few rare, very communal organizations. For example, in Nepal, I think it's Nepal. There's some villages where there's a custom of entire families of brothers marrying the same woman and then raising their children as a communal group. So that's one extreme example of something outside of the norm. But the norm throughout history, throughout all of anthropology, is that everything boils down to the family unit. The family unit is the strongest political and spiritual unit that you can get to, um,
Right.
within a society, and everything grows from that relationship. And that's even with Christianity. Like, look at the terms that are used: father, son. Like, Catholic priests are called father, monks are called brothers. Like, they break it down into family terms. So when you look at like these people who are like, "Oh, well, Native Americans don't talk about that," well, some don't, some do. And "Oh, well, Navajo don't talk about that," well, this tribe does and this tribe doesn't. Like, and
Right.
if this tribe says, "We're not going to talk to you, we're not going to talk about this," fine, that's okay. But if the tribe next door says, "Yeah, what do you want to know?" I'm going to talk to them,
Right.
because I'm interested. I want to know what they have to say.
Right.
Um,
It's very
and
similar.
it's
It's very similar to the
it's
United
all
States
about
almost.
yeah, exactly. It's all about having conversations with people and learning and just doing it in a respectful manner, because that's where something becomes like cultural appropriation, so to speak. And I think that's another big problem. Not to get into like politics, but people taking terms like cultural appropriation and racism and things like that, and just like slapping that label onto anything they mildly disagree with, and then you stop thinking of that thing as an issue, because it's just being treated like everything is that issue. So
Right.
how important can it really be? And even West Virginia's huge.
Well, it's
So it's
decently sized. I wouldn't call it huge. Huge is reserved for Texas.
all right, fair. Um, yeah, if you formed a little mini country out of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, you would have a sizable nation.
Even just
Y-
one state, like each state, would be a good nation
Yeah,
of its own. Although
yeah.
I think the Midwest,
That
in and
was
of
the
itself,
idea. That
right, right, and that's how it's
was
operating.
originally the plan.
But I mean,
Uh,
and that's kind of how it's operating to this day. Like you've got the
yeah,
red states and the blue states, and they all basically operate by themselves at
yeah.
this point, just with some
Thank,
oversight from, um, I'm gonna
thank,
say,
thank God.
honestly though, like I just wish there was more independence between states, because
Yeah,
like, mm,
I
some
I
some
I am
days,
thankful every day that there is not a stronger central government because with New York and New Jersey right there, um, Pennsylvania is exceptionally free compared to
Right.
our neighbors. Although West
Although
Virginia makes us look like California, but
even Ohio, I would say, makes Pennsylvania look a little bit less free. Although
yeah,
the difference is
yeah,
our governor is lazy, and your governor is actively hurtful or harmful,
yeah.
from what I've seen. Because like
Our governor is a movie villain. He lives on a mountain named after his family, has a
what?
cabinetry empire. Yeah, and during the pandemic, did everything that Governor Cuomo did. Everything Cuomo did,
What?
just as bad as Cuomo did it,
Oh my
and
gosh!
managed to get away with it because everyone was focused on New York.
Right.
Um, Pennsylvania had like the fifth worst COVID death rate in the country, at,
Oh my
while
word.
being nowhere near the fifth largest state. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, it was like
And then
us in New Jersey were both really high, but everyone was so focused on New York
exactly.
that nobody talked about it.
And then you've got
And
Ohio, which
Pennsylvania
is
is a very weird state
right.
politically too, because we're like these two islands of dense blue populations surrounded by this sea of red.
I mean, that's how most
Um,
states are. Like California, it's
yeah,
literally blue Los Angeles, blue Sacramento, blue not Santa
San
Monica,
Francisco.
San Francisco. Thank you. And then
Yeah,
everything else is red. Like
yeah,
NorCal is just red. But
yeah.
like
The part that makes Pennsylvania so weird is that we are almost exactly proportionally equal, um, between like, and it's not just like between voting populations. It's like the population of Pittsburgh, State College, Erie, and Philadelphia almost exactly equals the rest of the state.
right,
So it's like, so for example, we have a Democrat governor, but our legislature in 2018 was like 13 seats away from a veto-proof majority.
oh wow,
Um, yeah, and we ended up actually losing seats, and the Republicans ended up losing seats in that election. Not
yeah,
not to
most people
dox
did,
myself on my political alignment.
right.
Uh,
Well, okay, so on that, I will say like I am not a Republican.
mhm.
But I'm not a Democrat. I don't consider
Yeah, I
myself to align with either of those parties because the Democrats are actively harmful, and the Republicans sit there and do nothing.
yeah. You sound like you listen to Tim Pool.
I do. I do listen to Tim Pool. Do you listen to Tim
I'm
Pool?
sitting here, I'm like every day.
Oh, dude, it's the same. Like every
Yeah,
morning,
this
like when
is
I go to work, I put for my
yep,
first 2 hour hour portion of my shift, I have his podcast on, and I'm just doing my job.
yep.
And it's like,
I same thing every day.
which is like, there are some episodes I can't watch because Ian gets too much. But at the same time, it's like that is like
Dude,
the best thing.
I
Like
love Ian.
Tim is
I
talk.
love Ian.
I find him to be too much at times, but most of the time it's like Tim will say something like, "The government's printing money," and Ian's like, "We need to bring back the federal the gold standard. Get rid of the Federal Reserve, graphene."
Here's the okay, but here's the thing. I don't disagree with him, but I think the problem is that like you got like the Tim Pool being kind of the starting line,
Right.
and then Ian is all the way at the end of the chain.
Exactly.
So there's a link here and there's a link here, and then nobody has put together any of the
Well,
links in between.
okay. Luke is kind of like that center chain, but he's not
Luke's
always
a
there.
good, yeah,
But he's not always there, which
yeah,
is like it sucks because like I like Tim. Ian's hilarious, but every time Luke comes on, I will audibly shout because he's that
yeah.
cool. And then Lydia's
I
there, of course, but she doesn't talk all that often, at least not anymore.
I miss Adam.
I do as well. Oh my gosh. I'm still trying to
I don't
find
know
his
what happened.
podcast. He has his own show. I can't
Yeah, I know,
find
but
it
I don't know what happened. I don't know why he went off of Tim's show.
because he
It
started his
seemed
show. He does his show at the same time that Tim does his.
no,
So
but I don't know when you started listening to them.
I think it
But
was. It was when Adam was on the show. I listened to
yeah,
like 4 episodes with Adam, and then it abruptly shifted
yeah,
and to Ian instead. No, it was Adam
it was
was
just him and
gone.
Lydia for a
Yeah,
few.
and then Ian came on, and then Luke came on and then left and came on again.
Yeah. Luke
Uh,
keeps teasing us like that. Keeps
exactly.
coming back and
But
then
I mean,
leaving us.
he's a busy man. He lives in a van,
Yeah.
which
But
I think that's the coolest
no,
thing ever.
from what I could tell, it seemed like they had some sort of disagreement that ended with Adam leaving the show, and I don't know if it was that Adam wanted to do his own show. From what I understand, there was basically an episode of the podcast where Adam mentioned to Tim had said something and then was like, I talk about on my segment all the time, and Adam said something to the effect of like, oh well, I don't watch your normal show. And
Ah,
apparently, I'm a big fan of Tim Pool and his work, and what he's doing right now with
right.
his company and all that. I think he's doing some awesome work, but the guy's ego is massive.
I definitely agree. Um,
So, and
which is weird because
fair.
right,
He's done some crazy shit for a guy who didn't graduate high school.
right,
Like,
exactly. And like he
but
he does
he
have a big
definitely,
ego. He does.
yeah, he gets sensitive about it, and I'm guilty of doing the same thing. So
Right,
like, I've been in situations where people have called me out for it. I'm like, ah, shit. Looking back, you got
right.
a point.
Now, the
But yeah,
strange thing is like I agree. Tim's got an ego. However, I want to work for him, not as a journalist. I want to
yeah,
be a director, and like my only two options right now because of my political standings are him or the Daily Wire, and I have stopped listening to their shows because well, one, I don't really agree with Ben Shapiro all that much anymore, just
yeah.
based around everything that happened with COVID. Um, I stopped listening to Michael Knowles because on one of his shows he was encouraging a member of his audience to actively attempt to blackmail their non-religious spouse into becoming religious, or they don't get to see their kids anymore. And
That's not
I'm
good.
exactly that's why I stopped listening. And then Andrew Klaban, he's doing one show a week now, and I've just forgotten to watch any of his stuff.
Yeah, I
Um,
could never get used to Michael Knowles' voice.
I liked him. I like a lot of his political positions because he's very similar to
Yeah,
me in a lot of aspects. But that aspect where he's like, if your husband will not change his beliefs for you, you leave him and don't let him see the kids. It's like I can't
yeah.
get by that because I preach
That's too much.
love. I preach love first and everything else second. Like I
Yeah,
don't care if you believe with the same way I do or not. I will love you the way that Jesus loves me because of the fact that we are all sinners.
yeah.
And it's just
It's
I can't get behind
there's
blackmail.
definitely yeah there's definitely a an issue with that. And I think it's I don't know what the solution is. Like I said, I used to be a very politically active person, and I'm still like I still pay attention, I still listen to the news, and I still keep up with everything. But I used to write for the Libertarian Republic. I was I worked for Austin Peterson, um, and so I was doing a lot. My job was literally to report on Milo Yiannopoulos.
Gotcha,
Like
gotcha.
that was my job in college, and over time kind of got away from that. Had some disagreements with the editor they brought in, and I ended up leaving and writing for a couple other outlets, and then I just kind of stopped doing that altogether.
Right.
But I made kind of a deliberate decision that I wasn't going to be political with my TikTok content
Right.
or my YouTube stuff, and I think that's been for the better. I don't think that anybody is under any illusions about you know me being on one side or the other. I think it's pretty obvious that I'm rather libertarian in my views.
Right.
But I also just don't talk about politics. So I'll and my favorite example is I was sitting at a baseball game. I was at a Phillies game, um, and the I had TikTok open because I was about to hit 500,000 followers, and I I was scrolling through looking at the followers, and there was an account that had a profile picture that was a gay pride flag with a Black Lives Matter fist, and their name was something regarding communism
Oh
that
wow.
followed me. And then immediately following that is someone who had the stars and bars and some name like, Dixie something, and I'm
Oh,
like, all right, if those two are directly adjacent to each other in my following list, I'm doing something right. Like
exactly.
I have reached the point where my content is perfectly apolitical. Like,
Right.
because I've got people from both extremes
Right.
following me. So I'm like, all right, cool. I have found this nice little niche where I don't have to talk about politics. I can I can rant about the government, and people are just gonna chalk it up to, like, you know, me being all in on a few conspiracy theories. And
Right.
like you know, I'm sure there are people out there who follow me, who look at my stuff, and are probably like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely on the left." And I'm sure there are people who see something, and they're like, "Oh, he's definitely on the right." And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I have voted libertarian more times than I am proud of.
Right. Um,
Um, like,
I honestly, so at this moment, I voted Republican more times than I'm proud of, which is once
yeah,
in all positions because I'm 19. I don't
yeah.
know.
So you only have the one. Yeah,
Right.
I've
However,
been I've been through three.
oh,
So
well,
well,
I'm
two
not there.
presidential and one midterm,
Right.
but
But so like I don't know if you've ever seen any of my content. I assume not. I'm not at the level that you would see any of my content on your For You page. I've got
my people
1,700
that follow
followers,
me come
so
across it sometimes. Yeah, that's
um,
you're growing.
but
I
I
was
bet
at 600. I was at this time,
I've been
and
at
it was
1650 for 2 years now,
geez.
and I went
You've been on
from
TikTok for two
like
years.
I've been on TikTok since it was Musically. I've been
Wow.
on TikTok for a long time.
Yeah,
One of my old,
it's
I think one of like my best video I think I put out in 2018, and that one video shot me from like 200 followers to 1,500 followers in 3 days,
mhm.
and I've been riding that wave since. And I'm finally starting to get a consistent amount of people following me, but it's from comments I make on other videos now. Like I guarantee you, as soon as I open
Well,
this phone, there will be 20 likes on a comment that I posted 3 weeks ago.
yep.
It's
I
like
mean,
I don't get
and
it. I don't get it.
that's the thing about social media is there's there's a lot of algorithmic ways to do things and to optimize for whatever, but then to a certain extent, there's a large amount of it that's random chance. I
Right.
happened to post a video at 4 p.m. on a Friday, uh, that just hit the right hit the right
Yeah.
spot in the algorithm, and boom, millions of views. And the next morning, I had 600 followers, and I remember looking at my friend Aiden, who's my co-host for the podcast. We're sitting in my apartment. We were about to go out drinking for the night, and we got his buddy's Power Hour playing in the background, and like we're doing unhealthy amounts of tequila shots. Um, and and I remember I looked at him and I was like, I think I might hit 1,000 followers tonight. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like you'll probably hit 1,500." And I woke up the next morning, it was at 9,000, and I was
Jeez.
like, "What happened? What happened here?" And then the next day it
Whew.
was at like 17,000, and then the next day it was at 45,000. I was like, "What is going on? I have no
I
content." And
I
it was the one
wish that would
video,
happen.
and you just got to keep making stuff, and
Right.
eventually, and it's not going to happen to everybody. I'm not going
Oh,
to pretend that
exactly.
like if you just keep making content, you'll eventually get famous. No,
Right. Like
it's
if you just
like
keep making content and it's not good content, you're probably not
yeah,
going to get famous. However, the
it
weird
is
thing
equal
is,
parts luck.
right, because like the video that I made, I'll send it to you on Instagram so you can see how
Yeah,
purely just chaos it is. It was me. Do you remember? Were you on TikTok in 2018? Just like, did you watch TikTok back then?
I don't think I did.
Okay, well there was a trend going around where you had to like stand up against a wall and try to pick up a chair sort of thing. And I
Mhm,
decided I'm not going to pick it up by the seat. I'm going to pick it up by the back, cheese it a little bit.
mhm.
Overnight, I got like hundreds of comments on that video saying you did it wrong, you did it wrong, you did it wrong. You're a fool, you're an idiot. You did it wrong. It's like that's the point. It's a
Yeah,
joke.
I, and the thing about that is like, and I used to work in digital marketing, so like social media optimizations, search engine optimization. That's what I did for a while, and I'm again under no illusions about the fact that that is a huge part of why I have the following that I have. Is
Right.
because I was like, all right, I need to make this video just controversial enough that it'll get a lot of people commenting and sharing it, but it's not going to get me canceled.
Right. Oh,
Um,
that's a line you
so
got to walk across
it's
now. It's a
it
razor thin
is
line.
it is, and the thing is, if you don't do it, then the chances are you're not going to end up,
Right.
getting those massively viral videos.
Right.
And you know, it's been a while since I had a video hit 1 million views. It's been a while now. And it's partially, I think, because I've tried to be a little bit more responsible about my content and
Right.
acknowledging the fact that I have this very, very large following now. I'm not going to say anything unless I've thoroughly researched it.
Right.
And me thoroughly researching things, funny thing about that, it means that I'm probably going to have less bombastic things to say, and
Exactly.
I'm not going to kind of make as wild claims because I'm simply educating myself more about it. When I first made that video, the one that was basically saying that I think that the National Park Service was created because the government discovered that there was something in the American wilderness that had survived and thrived here because of the lack of urbanization, and that they decided the best way to handle it was to cordon it off and manage it through these wildlife refuges and national parks. And I I didn't pull it out of my ass, but it was something that I had like kind of joked with my friends about at the bar. Um,
Right.
and it's not that I don't believe there's some truth to it. It's just that like it wasn't something that I had seriously sat down and researched and thought out.
Right.
At the time, I probably couldn't have even told you when the first national park was founded or even what it was. It was Yellowstone in 1872.
Right.
But I couldn't have told you that at the time. And so I made this video, and I'm sure that to a large extent, it was a lot of people sharing it who were like, "Look at this idiot." And now I sit and I do my research and I really put effort into the content. And the funny thing about that is, the more effort I put into something, the
The
worse
worse
it
it
does on
does.
TikTok.
Absolutely. That's what I
And
found as
there's
well.
it is I made this one got me. I had been like 3 weeks where I was getting an average of like 10,000 views on a video after a week, which when you have 750,000 followers, that's not a lot. That's a very low impression click through rate. You're not getting the numbers there. Those are rookie numbers.
Right. Oh, just hit my microphone again.
So I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is going on? And finally, a video comes across my For You page, and it's like, this is for my male followers. It's just a guy kicking a rock down a cliff. And
Yes.
I just sat there and I like made a satisfied like yeah sound at the same time he did, um as a duet.
Love
Three hundred
those.
thousand views
I
overnight,
love those. And
and
it's so
people
weird.
duetting it, and I'm just like, this is it's so stupid. Like I knew it was stupid. I was doing it because I was like, what's some good mindless content I can put out there?
Right. And that's
Three hundred
that's
thousand views.
that's what gets clicks. And because what I found, especially nowadays with this generation, is when people are on TikTok, they don't want to think. They want to go on
No.
TikTok and just mindlessly scroll. And I'm looking through some of my videos, and because I've turned to be more of a, I used to do a lot of lip syncs, tried some
Hmm.
dance challenges and stuff. Nowadays, I do more like spoken content. I talk about different
Yeah.
things that I like. I talk about DoorDash because I do that. I've talked about current events, some politics every now and then.
Hmm.
But what I find is when I post something stupid, it's when it gets the big views. In For me, big views is 200 views, 300 views.
Yeah.
Very low in comparison to your thousands of views per upload. But then when I
I,
post
I,
something like a
yeah.
rebuttal to somebody else that, like, let's say I know a lot more about a specific topic, 10 views, 18 views,
Yeah.
30 views. It's like, this is something I put time into and know about, and y'all don't care? Whatever.
Yeah. TikTok does not algorithmically encourage content that makes you think. Interestingly, it does algorithmically encourage content that pretends to make you think. So those videos that are like, I'm trying to think of a specific account. Christopher Kelly. So it's Kelly is spelled Kiely. Um, there was someone tagged me in a few of his videos, and they were like, "Hey, he copies you almost word for word here." And I went and I watched them, and I was like, "This is like if you took my videos and made a script out of them, and then repeated them in like a Watch Mojo style like voice." And they were a few of the videos that were like,
Right.
you know, kind of broader. And I called him out for it, and actually he deleted one of them. Um, the one that was like the closest was I did a video about not deer, which got millions of views. He copied it nearly word for word, and obviously got a ton of views on it. He has more followers than I do by about 100,000 at the moment. He actually ended up blocking me after I called him out for it. Uh, but his stuff is basically you take my stuff, you take out any semblance of research or ethical reporting, and just you know throw the most like clickbait version of it at people,
Right.
and it gets the views and the comments. And there's so many comments on his videos that are like people commenting like free pass or like I don't claim any of the negative energy from this video. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't know if these are bots
Oh
or
my gosh,
it's
the
just
bots have
a
gone
certain
bad.
type of person that's commenting. But like there are so many comments that are just like the same comment over and over and over and over and over. And I don't know what it is. And I don't know, you know, what's going on. I know that it's easier to make a bot account that comments on things than it is to make a bot account that likes things. And if you look at his likes versus my likes, I'm like 10 million higher than he is, despite having less followers. So,
Although I don't think comments
you
do
know,
anything to a video. Although
they
I have
do they do boost it in the algorithm a little bit, but not nearly as much as they used to.
right.
And not as much as they do on, for example, Facebook and
Okay, yeah.
Instagram. So in Instagram's ranking, for example, a like is the least impactful for your algorithm. A comment is kind of in the middle. Uh,
And
a
then a share.
share is one of the highest, and then saving it is actually the most important thing. If
Okay.
you save something, that's like the premium version of sharing something
So maybe
in
that's
terms of
how
the
I can give my
algorithm.
main account a boost then.
If you can convince a bunch of people to save your stuff,
I have
yeah, but
other accounts already because I operate my main account. I operate one for my music, which it's still empty
Mhm.
because my producer has been extremely busy and we've been sitting on one song for 2 years. I operate
Oof.
one for my. I think I got one for my gym stuff when I was going to the gym, and then I operate a fan page for one of my friends. But like on TikTok, I see there's a lot of accounts that post like similar stuff to you that are more scripted. I'm trying to remember the
Mhm.
name of one. But it's like one account is like these are the top 5 most dangerous
Yeah,
places to go in the U.S. It's like they're interesting to a point, but I'd rather hear all the information from someone like you than here's a list of things from another person. And then
yeah, and it's
a lot of times I'll follow somebody for that and they change to something else and it's like I don't
mhm.
want to hear that. I'm going to unfollow you now.
Yeah,
Then you've
I
got
and that's one thing I don't think I've lost many followers at all. I
okay,
think
good.
I've basically consistent. I've never had a day where I had a negative follower rate,
Right.
um, which is cool. That's
It's very
awesome.
good.
But
I have. I've had
it's
many.
definitely yeah, it's definitely a slower growth process when you sit there and you pour hours of time into your work and then you put it out there and TikTok's like, yeah, this makes people think too much. We're
Maybe
gonna
you should
boost this guy who says that his cat is a skinwalker because it meowed differently today than it did yesterday. And I'm like,
or
okay.
or then you've got
Um,
then you've got accounts like that vegan teacher or that other like that feminist account that's all over the place. You never see any of their videos. All you see are the people reacting to their videos, like
Yep.
debunking their stuff, and it's like, I don't know if this account exists at this point because I've never seen one of their
Yeah.
videos. All I see are the reactions. Is it being made up? But of course, it's not
It,
being made up.
TikTok's algorithm also is extraordinarily powerful.
It is very, and it's very good at figuring out what you want to watch from a
Yeah.
creator. Like
Well,
if
because it
you,
analyzes everything.
right,
Everything. Watch time. How many times you watched something? Did you click on it? Did you read the comments? Did you leave a comment? Did you share it with somebody? Everything. So it's not only collecting that data for use for recommending your page to other pages and whatnot, but it's also using that data to determine what ads you want to see and what your for you page should look like and all of that. And it's truly incredible the amount of information they've been able to gather. Anybody who thinks that like they're not being monitored at this
oh yeah,
point,
definitely.
it's just, is anybody doing anything malicious with that information? The answer is
Right.
probably not right now.
Mm,
For the majority of people, never. Nobody's ever going to do anything directly malicious towards you using that
yeah,
information. But
directly. However, I do think there's going to be even now that a lot of these companies are performing malicious acts with your information in form of selling your information to third-party
yeah,
advertisers. Which at that point, once
yeah,
they get your information, they can sell it to seedy people out there, and you
yeah,
like the original company wouldn't have any information on that. And from what I've seen
yeah.
though,
It's
like TikTok's user algorithm, like the For You page, is incredible. Probably the best algorithm next to YouTube. But their advertising algorithm sucks. Like it's
oh yeah.
terrible.
Their
Facebook, on the other
advertising
hand,
strategy is 100% pay to play. It is, you pay us
right?
money, we will put your video in front of everybody.
But not even
It
that.
is
It's
a it
like
is a shotgun blast.
right, which is like the ads that they run. Like I got 25 ads for that stupid game Lemmings today, and that's all that I'm getting. But when I don't get that, it's for some stupid like um other app, like it's a game or it's some survival app. It's like I don't want this. Now Facebook, on the other hand, Facebook and Instagram and those things, terrible user algorithms. Their advertising algorithms, on the other hand, are insane
Oh yeah,
because you can
it's
like
crazy.
I will get an ad for something that we talked about on this show tonight.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure if I brought up Facebook right now, we would get something.
let's see.
Like
Let's see what we got.
I'll do it. I'll see what the first ad I get on Facebook is.
I'm doing it as well. All right, refresh my page. Let's see. First ad. First ad. Is this an ad? This is not an ad. Okay. My first ad is a Hello Tushy because I searched it up before we got on the show.
Artlist.io. Edit your video with the best royalty-free music and sound effects. We're talking
Oh,
about being on a
wow.
podcast. We're talking about our shows. Facebook immediately brings up, and you know what we were talking about earlier before we got on the show? Audio issues.
Exactly.
And so it's sitting there, it is listening to you, it knows what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're saying. Facebook knows when you poop.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, yes. I was gonna bring that
it's
up, but I forgot that you
crazy.
listen to Tim Pool as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's see what
it's
Instagram ad I'm gonna get. Okay, so the
it's
first
wild.
Instagram ad is The Voice, but that's because I've auditioned 4 times.
Yeah. My old singing teacher came in second on The Voice.
Nice.
Yeah, season 7.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was weird because he like very abruptly was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be moving to Nashville to record an album for the next few months, so we're gonna have to either do our lessons remotely or I'll find you another teacher to sub in." And then a few weeks later, he was like, "Yeah, that was a lie. I auditioned for The Voice and I got it, but I had to keep it a secret."
Right, right.
And I was like, "Well played, Matt. Well played." And now he's like the lead singer of a hardcore band.
That is
So
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I didn't make it on any of
No,
my auditions. I was
the
also having
those
audio issues at that point because the online
yeah.
editions, the built-in audio stuff for the website are terrible.
Oh,
Like
I'm sure.
it's so bad. I tried bypassing all of their stuff. They have built-in safeguards so you can only use your laptop's audio and the video recorder, but I could be standing.
Jeez.
So here's the phone. I could be standing clear on this side of the room, and it will peak every second that I'm talking. And so it's like, what am I supposed to do? Do you want me to go out into a field? Like, that's the
Yeah.
only logical idea that I have at that point.
Yeah, it's absurd. And those shows are, as much as, the people are all very, very talented, they definitely are rigged.
Right.
And I'm not saying that because I was told that they are. I just remember like watching it and doing kind of the math on everything myself, and I was like, all right, so Matt, my singing teacher, had the most out of the final four. He had the most Instagram followers. He had the most downloads on iTunes. He had the most listens on Spotify. It was like every single. Actually, Spotify might not have been out yet. Maybe it was Apple, whatever Apple had. Um, but he was like by far on social media the most popular person on the show, and the guy who ended up winning was the least popular of all the remaining contestants. But he
Ah.
was a country artist. But he was a country artist, and country music makes the most money out of any genre.
Yeah. Does it though?
So the country, yeah, it does. It's got the most
Really?
actual physical sales of any genre,
Oh well,
and that's where
physical
they make the most
sales,
money.
yeah. Because like, I guarantee you, like the most popular music at this moment is hip hop, rap, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because
Well, this
country
was
music is the
also, to be
music that
fair,
gets
this was
crapped
back
on the
in
most.
this was this was maybe 2014.
Gotcha.
Um, so, but yeah, it was, so at the time, country music had the most physical sales. It was like one of the most profitable genres. It also had the most like concert ticket sales. So
Gotcha.
essentially just went with the artist who was going to make them the most money.
That
Um,
makes sense. Yeah.
and then also, so my cousin auditioned for American Idol, and he actually got through the first round, and then they essentially told him he didn't have a good enough sob story, so he just wasn't. They were like, it's not anything to do with your talent, it's that your story just isn't, you know we can't tug at people's heartstrings with your story, so we're gonna choose somebody else over you. And
Okay.
now he's in Nashville recording albums and doing his thing. But the reality TV stuff is absolutely rigged,
Oh,
one hundred
definitely, it's
percent.
all rigged. I'm just like I'm at the point now. I'm gonna title this entire video just "Reality TV Rigged?" question mark. Because like I'm trying to come up with, I'm trying to come up with like catchy titles for everything. Like the first episode, I
uh,
had a filmmaker on, and I'm gonna name that episode "Pilot" because it's the pilot of the show, and
yeah,
so
right,
like
of
I'm
course.
trying to come up with something that like ties into the show, but it's just clickbaity enough that people are like, what is this all about?
Yeah,
But it's not like a
oh
lie.
god, I refuse. I refuse to do it. I I know if I gave my YouTube videos clickbait titles, they would do better. But I don't want to. I mean, our most recent one is uh it's the title really quick. Um, so it's currently our fourth most popular upload
Nice.
in the first 24 hours. And it's just Helltown, Ohio sucks.
No, no,
The
no,
one
no, no.
before that, is Vikings. Um, like which 4 days after posting has only a few more views than Helltown, Ohio sucks. So you see, it's like, uh,
What you should have
our
done is you should have
I
put
got
Hell.
goblins.
You should have Helltown Ohio sucks.
Yeah, true.
Because that
Um,
would have that would have been
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, but also, I mean, if your title has keywords in it, it's going to work. For example,
Exactly.
2 weeks ago, the National Parks Conspiracy, 3.7 thousand views. The two videos sandwiching that one, 881, 985. Like,
Wow.
and keep in mind, we have 25.6 thousand subscribers on the YouTube channel.
Right.
We're getting less than 1,000 views on a lot of our videos in the
Right.
first couple weeks. So, like, it's difficult because before doing this, I was very judgmental of people who used clickbait titles. I was like, it's not that effective.
It's
Oh
very
boy, it's
effective.
it's effective.
Like
Um,
my
and
YouTube.
it drives me nuts. And I sit here and I battle with myself every day. I'm like, do I do the clickbait stuff? Do I do it?
Right.
Because I mean, up until very recently, I was planning on going to graduate school and getting my PhD, and I was looking at it and I was like, I want everything I have to show a level of academic integrity,
Right.
so that I, when I apply for jobs as a professor and whatever, they're going to look back and they're going to see this and be like, okay, so even though some of the stuff he's talking about is out there, he's not, you know, diving into this clickbait, catch as many views as he can world. Um, but I think at this, I decided to defer and possibly just withdraw entirely from my master's program. There's currently no real jobs for professors, for new
Right.
younger professors, especially within the history field. So it's one of those things where, like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, if my when my main goal was be a professor and YouTube was the side gig, it made sense to do what was, going to look best on a resume. Now it makes more sense to go full throttle with the YouTube thing, make my titles pretty clickbaity, but make the information in them good,
Right.
which
And
is what I'm going to do. And that's, for example, what Mr. Ballin, who I had on the show a few weeks ago, he's over 4 million viewers or subscribers on YouTube now. He's at like 7 point something million on TikTok. Really cool dude, very nice. He is, as a person, exactly the way that you would expect him to be, which is just this cool dude. He was a Navy SEAL, very humble, like, great guy. I was so happy that he was a good person. Because they say don't meet your heroes because you're going to be disappointed,
exactly.
and it's like, I there was part of me that was worried. I was like, oh, what if he's an asshole? And he wasn't, and I was really happy about that. I was genuinely glad, because I have met a few people that I look up to who very much disappointed me. Um,
Oh, I agree with that.
yeah, so it's you're playing with fire anytime you do something like that. But his videos, if you watch them, all the titles are clickbait. It's top three this and the places you can't go, but these people went there anyway, and this man is the reason they have the death penalty. It's like
Oh,
every video's title
like what
is
the
clickbait.
infographic show does.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all clickbait, but the information in the
Right.
show
And it's
is
not like
very
it's
professionally presented and well researched.
the
So
titles are inaccurate to what the context of the show. Like
yeah,
when
it's
I
just very, like, clickbaity. And
right.
to be fair, like, we've developed uh a style with our videos where it's very much, POV. You're at the bar and I'm explaining this to you. Like, that's how I do my content on YouTube. Is
Right.
I sit here in this chair. There's a camera right here. Aiden's sitting on the other side of the camera, and I am explaining to Aiden a subject that he
So
knows
kind of
nothing about.
like what do you have you ever watched the channel Fact Fiend with Carl Smallwood?
I don't think I have now.
I will send you one of his videos. But the basic gist is he stands in front of a green screen and he writes articles. That's what he does. But he stands in front of a green screen. He gets an article and he talks about that article to somebody behind the camera who then responds back, and it's like a conversation between friends that's just happens to
Yeah,
be on camera. So that's kind of like what you guys are
exactly.
doing. Okay.
Yeah, that's basically what our recorded segments are, and it's not that much different from the live segments, other than that
Right.
I kind of, like, think through what I'm saying, and if I don't like the way that I said something, I go back and I re-record it with a slightly
Right.
different phrasing. Um, and so they're a little bit more, high quality information than the podcasts, which are more conversational. Um, but yeah, that's what we do. Is we sit there and there's so much content on YouTube that is, I'm not going to call it dry, but it's, like, very academic.
Yeah.
For example, for me, I love the Kings and Generals channel on YouTube. Um, really cool. As a history person, I am fascinated by it. But if you're not a history person, if you're not a medieval historian, a classical historian, you're gonna watch it and you're gonna be like, "Oh, this is just some British guy talking over an infographic." Like,
Right.
Uh, so
And that's why I
what
like.
I'm doing with my content is I'm trying to appeal to both the history people who like kings and generals, as well as the people who maybe have a passing interest, but they don't want to sit there. They don't want to sit through a lecture. They want to sit
Right.
through somebody explaining it to them. So I talk about stuff in a conversational manner. Um, and I've had conversations in my real life where I've sat there and I've explained kind of the gist of something to somebody, and then they're like, "Oh, well, can you explain this specific detail?" And then I get very academic.
Right.
Um, and it's very quick. And I post a lot of my academic work on our Patreon, so like people can go read stuff that I've written as a research paper,
Right.
uh, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it is.
But
That's
there's a
really
lot of
cool.
people who aren't. There's a lot of people who aren't going to be interested in that kind of content, and there's
Right.
so much of it out there already. What there isn't a ton of is people just talking about their stuff, the stuff they're passionate about, in colloquial terms,
Right.
in just a friendly conversational manner. And that's what we try to do with the show, is make things very much an unintimidating experience for the viewer.
Right.
It's like we're at the bar and you said, "Tell me about Vikings." Like,
Right.
and that's what we do.
And that's why I kind of like channels like Oversimplified, because they give you a
Oversimplified's great.
lot of information, but it is entertaining in a way that no other channel, except for like maybe the infographics show, has been able to
Yeah.
capture. But even then, the infographics show is a lot more just here's the information over like a really cool animated background, whereas
Mhm.
Oversimplified is like here's an abridged version of everything that happened, but it's abridged in such a way that you get all the major details, but you can also laugh and you can be
Yeah.
entertained. And that's the kind of history
Exactly.
that I like, especially when I'm at work, because I don't want to sit there and just listen to somebody just about a topic.
Yep.
I want to have fun, because when you have fun and when you're laughing, you don't realize how long time has been going on. Like when I listen to
Hmm.
boring stuff at work, every second drags on. And while it's
Hmm.
interesting information to me, I don't feel like time's passing fast. But when I'm listening
Yep.
to Oversimplified, I'll look up and be like, it's break time already? Dang.
Yeah. Exactly. Whew. Sorry. I work at a coffee shop during the day, so I'm like,
It's all good.
been
I work at a
been up
plastic
since
plant.
yeah, I've been up since 6:30 a.m. I'm like,
Gotcha. Yeah, I
yeah,
get
not
weekends
loving it.
off.
I have to be at work at 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Ooh, that's rough.
Oh, yeah, I told myself I would never work in the service industry again, and then I was like, be nice to have a little more money. Um,
Yeah. Well, that's
and now I regret everything. I
that's
really
why I
enjoy
work at
making
a
coffee,
plastic plant.
like I do.
Yeah, that's why I work at a
Yeah,
plastic plant, because I don't want to work in the service industry, and my job is such a job that it's mundane enough that I'm not like constantly having to focus on what I'm doing, but it is interesting enough to where I'm not bored out of my mind all day.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's what
exactly.
this comes into play.
And that's, to a large extent, that's why I like being a barista, is because like, um, you know, uh, when it's not busy, it's a little rough, a little boring. But when it is busy, it's just constant mechanical activity.
Right.
So I am, when I'm not grinding an espresso shot, I'm steaming milk. When I'm not steaming milk, I am mixing the base for a drink. Like, it's constant activity, and it's
Yeah.
constant productive small goal activity. So I need to make this drink, I need to do it right, and I need to do it quickly. And it's a short-term goal. I want to do this in a minute and a half per drink and get to the next thing. And then it's, start over with the next one. And, that's a happy customer. And each happy customer is going to leave a tip. And each customer leaves a tip, that's more money in my pocket.
Right.
So it's a very like, all of the transactions are very tangible.
Right.
So I enjoy doing that. But when it comes to when somebody's like, "Hey, can you go wash the dishes?" I want to shoot myself.
Dude, I feel you.
Um, because then it's just boring.
Right.
Um, which is why I enjoy writing and making YouTube content, is because I can take each project. Oh my god! I can take each project and really like dive into it, take my notes, shoot the video gets edited, video gets posted, that's done, next one.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that's how I
so
do my YouTube as well. Like today was very weird because today's supposed to be my editing day. Like I'm
mhm.
completely rebranding myself. Used to like the name that you see on my Discord is my old YouTube name. It's not very catchy at all. It's I made that when I was 11 maybe, when I shouldn't have been
Mhm.
on YouTube. But I've been trying to get on YouTube for a long time. And finally, recently, I'm like, you know what? I've been sitting at 56 subscribers for long enough. I'm making a new channel. I'm making an actual intro, like from the start.
Yep.
I'm taking all the knowledge that I had from my last channel, putting it onto this channel. So I got all that stuff situated. I gave the channel a name. It's Broken Valor. This is the podcast segment of that YouTube channel,
Mhm.
but most of the channel is going to be like gaming stuff, some
Right.
live action stuff. Like I have an idea for a video where I want to uh like talk about dating apps and the pros and
Mhm.
cons of a dating apps in a modern world. And then I
There's a
also want to talk
lot
about
of cons, man.
a
There's a
lot of
lot of
cons.
cons.
But there's a lot of pros that ended up being made because of the cons, which I'm going to get into on the video when I end up recording it. But today was supposed to be the day I edited all the videos I recorded this week because I want to have a nice stockpile that I can release before, like, as soon as the channel goes live. So that way,
Right.
once those are going up, I can start filming and get into a routine. But I had mechanical problems, I had software problems setting up for this
Mhm.
for right now all day. So it's like, great, I can't edit because I'm trying to get everything set up for this one video. And so now I have to edit tonight once we get off here, and then
Yep.
tomorrow after work, and then Tuesday is when I record. Then Wednesday I got to do more editing rather than taking a day off.
Yep.
So, welcome to the
The
internet, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pain in everyone's butt.
Yeah, if I taught myself to edit and bothered to pay for Adobe Premiere, it would probably be much better for our channel, but I
Ooh,
also really don't feel like doing it.
don't do Adobe Premiere. Like if you're gonna do stuff like that, I recommend Filmora to start off with, because Filmora 10 is what I use, and it's so
Mhm.
helpful. It's very
Is it?
easy to use. Um, what's up?
Sorry. No, I'm just
Oh, that's all
I'm
good.
listening. It's just I got a notification on my phone that
Gotcha.
Ethereum is
Ooh.
suddenly down 2%, and I'm like,
Ooh.
mm.
Bitcoin's
Which
been
is fine
fluctuating today.
because yeah, it's Ethereum basically mirrors Bitcoin.
Right. I want to see.
Because most people who have one have the other.
Why does
And I
everyone
only
want
have
to
like
talk to me right now?
I only have $400 and some in it right now.
Jesus
Because I am
Christ.
broke.
I have
But
50 in Bitcoin. And even then, I've already pulled out $2 today because I ran out of money. Like, I have
yeah,
that. I
okay,
put
but
that
you
in
got to
there.
remember, I'm turning 24 in a month. I've
That is
been
true.
around the block a little bit. Yeah, I've
When's
been
your
around.
birthday?
November 10th.
Okay, so you
Yeah,
are 16 days before me.
yeah.
I
It's
turned 20 on
Scorpio
November
gang.
26th. It's.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's one of my
I,
friend's birthdays actually.
oh, sweet.
Yeah. Oh god, he's getting married this summer.
Oh, no.
Ugh.
I don't even have a
That's
girlfriend.
that's gonna be weird. Me neither.
A lot
That's
of a
it's
lot
gonna
of
be
a lot of my
it's
friends are
gonna
getting
be
married as well.
weird. Yeah, it's definitely strange because more and more people in my life are starting to get married and have kids, and I'm like living in my parents' house at the moment because
Yes.
I quit my job and I thought I was going to grad school, so I was not going to sign another lease for a
Right.
year, and then I moved home because it was going to be just for a month. Now
Yeah.
it's October.
Yeah, I was
And
supposed
I don't get
to
it.
I was supposed to move to Washington this year because
Jeez,
I
state.
thought Washington State, yeah, Seattle specifically, because for the past 2 years I have been applying to a school in Washington for video game development, and
Mhm.
the lady that I was talking to, my representative, was saying like, she was looking over my resume and stuff, and she's like, you are like 95% possible that you're gonna get accepted into the
Mhm.
school. Like, it is almost guaranteed that you're going to get accepted in. And I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
That is really good. I sent in my resume. I sent in
Mm-hmm.
my application. She's saying, like, they're all talking about you. They all like it. They all like your application. I go into a
Mm-hmm.
town hall that they did, and I asked a couple questions. I felt really good about myself. I got a letter in the mail. A
Mm-hmm.
couple weeks later, thought it was my acceptance letter. It wasn't. I didn't have the right. Get this, college. I didn't have the correct skill sets for college where I would learn the skills that I needed to get into
Yep.
the freaking school. So then
Yep.
I called my representative and I'm like, hey, what does this mean? And she says, while you took a class in high school for programming, it wasn't 100% game development, and you don't have any current accomplishments on your resume of games or that you've worked on to show that you're like really invested in this. And I asked her, I'm like, would you consider somebody like calling every week for 3 years, like forward enough or
Yeah.
like invested enough? And she's like, I would. They wouldn't. And I'm like, whatever. And then come to find out later, they're
Yeah.
now requiring the vaccine. They're doing a vaccine mandate at that school, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get vaccinated. Not for the coronavirus, or not
Yeah.
yet. Because like,
Yeah.
if it comes out, I don't know enough about it. Nobody does. If it comes out and it's completely fine, then yeah, I'm all for it. But right now, there's not enough information.
I got it back in March.
Right.
Mainly because the plan was that I was going to be traveling to Europe and it was going to be required, and I was like, all right, I might as well get it here and now, and I would rather, if there are going to be complications, I would rather have them here in Pennsylvania than in Wales.
Right.
So, and I ended up, you know, being fine. One of my cousins, who's a month younger than me, ended up in the hospital with myocarditis, and I don't know, I'm not going to say
Yeah.
whether or not that was caused by getting the vaccine or what. The timing was a little
Right.
suspicious, especially with how many
Yeah.
people have been reporting myocarditis as a side effect. I talk to your doctor about the vaccine. Like
Exactly.
it's,
Like, this isn't
'cause
medical
for some
advice.
people,
Just talk to your
like,
doctor.
yeah, yeah. If you got Guillain-Barré, you shouldn't get the vaccine. That's the medical advice. So, if by it's become so political. It's if you're on the right, don't get vaccinated. If you're on the left, get vaccinated. It's just like get vaccinated if getting vaccinated is the right choice for you.
Right.
I think that Biden saying that when 97 or 98% of the population is vaccinated, we can go back to normal is complete bullshit. There's never been a vaccine that has reached that rate in the
Exactly.
population.
And now the
That's
CDC
complete
and Fauci are
horseshit.
coming
But
out.
also, yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
also, to say that you don't need the vaccine if you're, you know, if you're not, like, to say that the vaccine
Compromised.
doesn't work or that it's bad or that it hurts you also isn't helpful.
Right.
Because for some people it's the right decision. For some people it's the wrong decision, and we've got to
Right.
accept that we're probably going to hit or hover around 65-70%, and at that point, it's it you got to assume that if somebody hasn't gotten it, it is better for society if we look at that person and say, I assume they've got a good reason, because if we're asking for people's medical papers at the door of every business establishment, that is, we're
Welcome
getting
to
on the
Germany.
train to a certain, we're getting on the train to a certain camp.
Yeah, and like I'm not saying that I'm not getting it because
Australia's
I know.
already there.
Right.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm not saying it because like I know what's gonna happen. No, I don't. But the biggest reason is I got the meningitis shot because my school required it, which is fine. It's understandable. I was homesick for the next 2 weeks, and that was a common thing with the meningitis shot. I had pain, like sharp pain in my chest, sore throat, just knocked on my butt for like 2 weeks straight. Yep. And then with this, like I'd rather be completely. I'd rather be safe. I'd rather talk to my doctor. I haven't seen my doctor, so I'm not going to take it until I talk to my doctor. But I haven't seen my doctor in a while.
Yeah.
But even then, like I have a very good immune system. Like I think it was 7 years without getting sick because I built up a good immune system from living in the country for most of my life. and being around stuff that
Yeah,
could
I
get me
mean
sick.
yeah, it's very. That's why I say talk to your doctor, make your decision based on
Right.
actual sound medical advice from somebody you know and trust. Don't make your medical decisions based on what some clown who's worked for the government for 40 years and hadn't seen a patient since medical school says.
Right.
And also don't make medical decisions based on what your crazy uncle on Facebook says.
Or
Uh,
what the
that is about the level
person
of
on TikTok that you
that
watch
is
says.
exactly. That is the level of credibility that Fauci has with me is, your crazy Facebook uncle. Um,
Exactly.
and the fact that Disney made a documentary about him is just mind-boggling to me,
Like I would
especially
I
now that he's actually been completely exposed for funding gain of function research and then lying about
exactly.
it to Congress. Um,
Like if
which, and then it's just and and that's the problem is like if we had been honest from the start about this, then I think we would not be in this situation. But
right.
it got, the outbreak happening when it did meant that there was never going to be an apolitical, let's make the best decision response for this, especially because a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, you think that, a global pandemic has anything to do with American politics? It's like, no, I think American politics have a lot to do with world politics. And I
Right.
think that America is the foremost superpower in the world, possibly the only one.
For the moment I
To
would say
that
yeah.
that yeah, that is really full spectrum dominance. Um, so I think that what happens in American politics matters for everybody else. I think there are definitely American politicians who are working with European politicians, who are working with African politicians, who are working with Australian politicians. I think that there are people on both sides who are very bad actors. I think there are people on both sides who are very good actors.
Yeah.
And I think that if we had simply approached this as a public health emergency and done so with transparency and honesty, we would be in a situation where probably this would all be over.
Exactly.
Either everyone in the United States would be vaccinated by now, or the vaccine never would have been a political issue at all, and it would have been get it if it's best for you, don't get it if it's not.
Right.
And instead, what have we ended up with? Nobody trusts the government, nobody trusts their neighbors, everyone's upset, and the people who are winning are the people who stand to gain from Americans being divided over something, just like the people who are winning in Europe are the people who stand to gain from Europeans being divided over something.
Right.
American politics is absolutely to the right of European politics, but
Mm,
in terms of like globalism versus uh, nationalism, it really isn't, because the European far right is much further right than the American far right. It's just that they're like there's the American far right is your crazy uncle on
well,
Facebook.
you got to
The
make
European
a
far right
distinction
is
though.
people whose grandfathers were in the Nazi party.
Right. Well, you got to make a distinction
Like
though, because like, are we talking the actual American far right, which is neo Nazis and KKK members
yeah.
and people like that, or are we
But my
talking
point is,
the leftists'
none of yeah.
interpretation of the far right, which is
Oh
Tim
yeah.
Pool
I'm
and
talking about the
actual
yeah.
liberals?
Yeah, I'm talking about the actual American far right.
Right.
The like actual neo-Nazi, American Student Front, Identity Europa, those
Yeah.
groups. Um, and then like when you look at those groups, those types of people, the difference between the American far right and the European far right is that the European far right actually has institutional power.
Right.
It's a lot of people are like, oh well, the American far right has institutional power. Like
No,
no,
the right doesn't have any
you might
institutional
be
power
you
right
you might
now.
say that, oh well, yeah, sure, the American far right tends to vote Republican, and then the Republicans occasionally do something minor that in some way subtly benefits the American far right. Um, Never mind that American, far right extremists tend to identify with more of Bernie Sanders policies than the actual Republican Party.
Right.
But remember when I said I was really involved in politics in college? This is where that's coming from.
Oh, dude,
Because
it's
I
all good.
knew if you look up Penn State like white supremacists, you'll get a bunch of search results for a time when I was a senior in college. Yeah, it was senior year. No, late junior year. of college, so 2019, um, a bunch of posters went up that had the names and pictures of a group of, I think at the time it was 12 people who were legitimate, actual white supremacist neo-Nazi types,
Oh wow.
who had, yeah,
So like
who were
doxing.
running the, oh yeah, 100%. Except it didn't give out addresses; it just gave names and
Oh,
faces.
okay.
So
Okay. So
not really doxing,
that's better.
just
That's better.
unmasking, basically. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
That's good. That's
and
fine.
yeah, but basically what it said is, here's the names and faces of this group of people. They're all students. Here's how they recruit. Here's what their recruitment looks like. Here's what they do on campus.
Gotcha.
And this was a huge story. It blew up. A bunch of people lost their jobs. Like a bunch of students lost their jobs, and some withdrew from school, and others were just like socially like complete outcasts. The thing was, most of them were already complete social outcasts, and
Right.
that's how they ended up in the situation they were in. It's actually kind of sad, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I watched some of these people. Like when I was a freshman, these people tried to recruit me, and it didn't work.
Well,
I was
obviously.
like, I was like, I know what you are, and I'm not falling for that. And then I watched as other people over my next 3 years of college, as freshmen, came into college and got, basically this group of people were like, hey, I know you're really struggling to make friends, but it's not your fault. It's not that you need to grow socially. It's that they're bad people. And we'll accept you
Um,
and we'll take you in. And then before you know it, you're part of a hyper nationalist white
right.
supremacist organization called Bull Moose Party. Uh,
Right.
and for example, there was one Twitter account, and this caused me a lot of problems because this one Twitter account that was run by one of these guys, it was called the Penn Statist, and it was like this total white nationalist bullshit Twitter account, and it was obviously no names or faces associated
Right.
with it. I think I know exactly who it was,
Right.
but somebody was like, screaming at them on Twitter for something they said, and they were like, "We're gonna go to the faculty and we're gonna find you and get you expelled." And then this person claimed to be me and said that because I was no longer a student, they couldn't do anything to me, which I was no longer a student. That's true. Penn State could not do anything to me. But the problem with this was that I wasn't running the account. I didn't know who was. So this person impersonates me, and then I get a bunch of emails and direct messages from like the school's journalists being like, we're gonna like, you know, do all these like we're gonna ruin your life over it. And I'm like, do you think for a second that if that was actually me, I would have said that?
Right.
And a couple of them were like, well, and I'm like, it's not me. And they were like, well, hey, can you prove that? And I'm like, prove that I don't own the Twitter account? Okay, here's my Twitter accounts. Here's what I'm logged into. It was like my account, um, a fucking like meme account, and then another meme account. And
Right.
neither of these were political meme accounts. They were one is an account where I just state facts that are completely unhelpful to anyone, such as uh, there are a number of differences between a plate of eggs Benedict and a Spaniard. Like that's true. It's true, but it's useless information. Um, and then the other one was like I was trying to get the band Sabaton to cover Despacito. Um, they actually replied to me. They actually
Oh
replied to
my
me. Um,
gosh. That's
but
awesome.
yeah, so it was just stupid stuff that I was doing. I'm like, here's the Twitter accounts I have access to. Here's DMs of me with that account telling them that if they don't remove those posts and don't say that they were lying, I'm going to sue them. And here's screenshots of me talking to Twitter support saying this person's impersonating me. Like, what more do you want from me? And of course, they never published any of that. They
Right.
never published a statement from me. Um,
Right.
and I got booted from group chats, and I got letters from people. I got emails from people telling me that like, you know, I was a horrible person, whatever. And finally, I'm like, this isn't me. I don't know what you want from me. Um, but I, that happened to me. And it all happened because I was involved with the people who put together these posters that outed this group of white supremacists.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like,
And I mean,
that's, and everyone had assumed that it was like someone on the left doing this. Nobody assumed it was a libertarian. Like
right.
the libertarians are nobody ever expects it to be us.
Oh, I mean, it
So
makes sense. However, the Libertarian Party right now, like the mainstream party, is kind of
they're
whack.
a mess. Yeah, the Mises
Which,
Caucus is the party's only hope. And
exactly.
I know the establishment libertarians. I know they're never going to let that happen. And it's weird to say establishment libertarians, but
Right.
they
And
exist.
now that's why, because like as I said, I don't identify as a Republican or a Democrat. I don't identify as a libertarian because I'm not that
Mm.
libertarian on things. Like I am conservative at heart, but I also believe
Yep.
live and let live. Unless you're physically
Yep.
hurting someone, live and let live. Which is why, and I'm
That's what
gonna
libertarianism is supposed to be.
right. And that's why, like, I'm gonna offer you an olive branch and say, "Come to the Freedom Party," started by yours
Yep.
truly, because I want to
Yeah,
run for
exactly.
governor of Ohio at one point, but I'm not running under any like already established political banner. I'm making my own.
Probably
It's
smart.
the Freedom Party. It should be fine for everybody because it's freedom. That's all it is. What we stand for. Freedom under the Constitution. You do what you want, live and let live. That's literally
Exactly.
it. And so
Mhm.
that means like if you're a Democrat, you can run. If you're a Republican, you can run because as long as you believe in freedom, then you agree with our statements. Now there are some stuff that would fall under like political differences with
Yep.
what's going to be the Freedom Party. But in jest, it's like, do you not belong anywhere? Come here, we'll take you in because we don't give a crap.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all there's a lot. And I try not to get too much into politics with any of my
Right.
content anymore. So I'm trying to refrain from doing too much. It's frustrating. It's a hard situation we're living in, a hard time we're living in. And I wish everybody would just be kinder to their neighbors and to each
I
other.
agree.
I think that
I definitely agree.
all my friends from high school, almost all of my friends are Democrats. Like I know it's possible. I know you can do it. You can be friends with people you disagree with politically.
Right.
Um, you know, so I just wish people would try harder. I wish people would be better to one another, and that's why I genuinely enjoy what I do with TikTok, is because my audience is not on one side or the other. There's no politics in it. It's you know there is a big mysterious world out there, and we're gonna explore it. And
Exactly.
maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is all completely made up. Maybe who knows? I'm gonna piss off the archaeology community probably. Not probably. I routinely piss off the archaeology community. Um, like all the time. I am like archaeology TikTok's number one enemy right now. Um, but fine. Archaeology is kind of like boring anyway.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
like history's less fun cousin.
No, it's
Um,
it's the middle child in history. If in history you
yeah,
have world history, you have archaeology, and then at the bottom you have something like I don't know, prehistoric history. Like like archaeology and prehistoric history, I find those two completely different things. Because in archaeology, it's like that's a bone. What could that be? And then prehistoric history is like screw it, dragon, dinosaur,
yep,
big monster. And it's like I don't like they
yeah,
don't care if they actually existed. It's cool, and I still consider it history because it's
yeah,
based in history. It's just embellished a little bit.
exactly.
Although dragons
So
existed at
it's
one
just
point, and that is a that is a thing that I will take to my grave.
oh
Dragons existed.
God,
I'm not letting that go.
that's honestly that's what we should talk about tomorrow on the podcast. No, we have a guest tomorrow. Um, shit. Uh,
Well, hey, I would love to come on and talk about dragons
you
if
know
you
we
guys want to have me on. That would be awesome.
I would if you have strong opinions about dragons, I can probably swing that.
I've got strong
But you better
opinion. I have strong opinions about the
you you,
minimalist of things.
you got to bring your A game.
Oh, trust me, I'll bring
Because
my A game.
because the chat will roast you and will grill you.
Oh, bring the roast. I'm literally talking to my own audience right now. Bring the roasts. Try me. I have thicker skin than you might think. Look at how I'm dressed and look at where I'm from, although you can't see the flag. And hang on. I gotta show you something real quick.
All right.
not in there. All right. Well, I'll just tell you. I'm a Steelers fan living in Browns country.
Oof.
Yes, I have thicker skin than you might think.
I'm an Eagles fan.
Ooh.
It's a rough existence.
At least you're not a Ravens fan.
It is the highest highs and the lowest lows.
Oh, trust me, right now the Steelers are in a low streak. Like I'm still not sure how. I'm still not sure how he went 11-0 last year. I don't understand how that happened. Like I don't know if it's because we played the worst teams, or because we just got lucky somehow. But we went 11-0, and then we just went down, and we have not gotten out of that downward spiral.
Yeah, Roethlisberger needs to retire.
I completely agree. Like
it's time.
He's one of the greatest quarterbacks in history. I will say that. His ability to throw an accurate pass while beelining it to the sideline is incredible. He's lost it after that injury in 2019, and even before then. He's really.
I mean, it's just like.
And we also haven't had that great of an offensive line.
It's no longer a bad season. It's several bad seasons.
Right.
And yeah, when you've got a poor offensive line and an immobile quarterback, you're screwed.
Right. Although, like having
the Eagles right now, the only thing keeping the Eagles alive is the fact that Jalen Hurts can run.
Right.
And here's the thing, I despise Jalen Hurts as a person, as a player. And I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I was such a huge Wentz fan.
Right.
That when Hurts came in and it basically undermined Wentz completely for the entire season, and it ruined his confidence, and he ended up getting traded to the Colts, who I think if they can keep him healthy will go on to win Super Bowls.
Right.
But it's like I'm sitting there watching the Eagles mount the most improbable comeback to a game I've seen in years, with being trailing the Panthers 18-13.
Right.
And we get a blocked punt.
Ooh.
That puts us on like their 40-yard line. And then over the course of a couple of minutes, the Eagles manage to march their way into the end zone, and it goes up. And then against all odds, Hurts manages to complete a pass while being tackled to Devontae Smith at the back of the end zone for the 2-point conversion that puts the Eagles up by 3. So the Panthers need to actually score a field goal just to tie.
Right.
And then, on the next series, the defense just totally shuts the Panthers down. The Eagles just have to march up the field, get enough first downs, and kneel. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, if this was any other quarterback in the league, I would be really excited right now. But instead, I'm sitting here and I'm watching Jalen Hurts, and I feel nothing.
Right.
I would we have Flacco and Minshew right now, and I would have been more excited watching either of them do it. But here's the thing: the touchdown that we scored, Hurts ran it in.
Oh,
so I should be excited. But I can't be. When he hands the ball off to Miles Sanders, oh yeah, let's go.
Right.
I'm ready. But I also got to watch Miles Sanders at Penn State, so that was exciting. I was there in like the golden years when we had Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley. It's frustrating to watch.
Yeah,
it's frustrating to watch.
We've been going through some really bad players. Like back in the day, back in my heyday of watching the Steelers, which wasn't very long ago because I haven't been alive for that long. But we had Hines Ward, we had the Bus, we had all these Heath Miller. We had all of these incredible players. One of the greatest plays of all time, Ben's pass, I think it was Hines Ward in the corner of the end zone for the Super Bowl touchdown win.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got people like Antonio Brown. He was really good, completely full of himself. He in the later season he just got so terrible. We've had some really good running backs. We've had some really good receivers. Our offensive line is non-existent these days. Like they cannot keep Ben from getting tackled. Ben has had to run more now than he had to do when he was actually good at running and throwing. Like when he could put a bullet straight in the hands of a receiver while being tailed by 7 other players. That is when our offensive line should have been crap. Not now.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's difficult to watch your favorite players get old and lose their
Exactly.
mojo, but it happens, and
If I could have one wish from a genie, it
uh,
would be to take everything bad that's happening to Ben and just put it on Brady. Just take it, all the injuries, give them to Brady. Cause like that guy
I
needs
gotta
them.
say, Brady is infinitely more likable on the Buccaneers
I
than he
still
was
don't
on the
like him.
Patriots.
I still don't like him. Not because
I
he's. I guarantee you he's an amazing person in real life. I don't like him because he opposes my team. Like I don't care where he is. He
Yeah,
started on the Patriots, now he's on the Buccaneers. I will never like him as a football player.
yeah,
As a human being,
yeah,
he's probably amazing.
yeah. He's probably a nice dude, but
But it's the same with the Browns.
still
I don't care
kisses
how
his son
good the
on the
Browns
lips.
get.
Still kisses his son on the lips.
That's weird.
Still weird.
Yeah, it's the same. Like
Also, you'd go to the Super Bowl every year too if your schedule involved playing like the Jets and the Bills and the Bengals
right.
all the time, or the Dolphins, not the Bengals.
Yeah, we have the
Like
Bengals.
yeah,
We have.
um, the
Did Perfect
the
ever
Jets
do
are not
anything to your team?
good. The Bills are only good recently. What?
Did
Devontae's
Perfect?
perfect?
Yes, because I remember.
Not to our team, I don't think.
Because I remember whenever we played the Bengals, there would be at least four of
Mhm.
our players would walk off. They wouldn't walk off the field. That's the thing. They'd be carried off on a stretcher
Yeah,
because Perfect would beat them to crap. Like at one point,
yeah.
he did a charge play at Antonio Brown that got him spinning in air and landing on his neck. And
Yeah, I
finally, I think he
remember.
was
That's when
discharged.
Antonio Brown. That's when Antonio Brown went crazy. It
Oh
was
yeah,
after that hit.
definitely. I'm starting to wonder if
But
something like snapped in his brain after that. Like if that hit
yeah,
is the reason that he
um,
like it's just so weird.
yeah. I think it has to be. But yeah, the one that bothered me a lot was Jadeveon Clowney. Just absolutely blindside, unnecessary roughness, like nailed Nick Foles during uh during one of the first games of the 2018-2019 season, and the refs never called it, and we ended up
The,
losing to Tampa Bay.
the refs
Um,
sucked this year.
yeah,
The refs have gotten
it was
terrible in
difficult to
recent
watch.
years.
Yeah, but
Like I remember I forget how many years ago it was, but I was watching it was a Steelers and Browns game, and of course like at that point it was a couple years ago. The Steelers were up by I think it was 3 or 4 touchdowns to the Browns because at that point they still sucked. Which is the only solace that I have every season is knowing that we won't lose to the Browns, and now that solace is gone because they have
yeah,
freaking what's the
because they're a
guy's
decent
name?
team now.
Oh, they're not. They're
Mayfield.
more than decent. They got Mayfield. They're more than decent. I'm terrified.
Yeah,
But
I like how everyone was like shitting on Mayfield. They're like, oh, he's overhyped, he's overrated. Meanwhile, he's the first quarterback to lead the Browns to a winning season in how many
he
years?
terrifies
Like,
me because
you
he's the
gotta
reason
give the
that
kid credit.
I give him so much credit. Doesn't mean that I like him. It's the same reason that I
Poor
don't
guy.
like Tom
Poor
Brady.
guy has to live in Cleveland too.
Oh, I know. Oh my gosh.
What
But
a
like,
what a
what was
terrible
it?
existence.
It's very very bad.
Cleveland. Ugh.
He has to live in Ohio, just in general. He has to live in Ohio.
Yeah.
Like at this moment, Ohio is it's not a good state. If I ever am able to do what I want to do, this state will become the heart and soul of the United States. Because I want to turn this state into the state that you look up to and think, wow, they do nothing but practice love and respect to everybody around them, even though they have differences. But anyway, back to football.
Yeah.
But we were playing a game.
Oh,
It was
we're
home
already so
field.
off track.
That's what happens. We were playing a game against the Browns. We were up by like four touchdowns, and the refs stopped calling penalties on the Browns. Like they could just walk up to one of our players and punch them in the face they could do that,
Mhm.
and the refs wouldn't call it. But they called every small mistake that the Steelers made. And it got
yeah.
so frustrating because the Browns got within 1 touchdown of beating us because the refs refused to call anything. And it made me so mad.
They do that to us with the Lions every time. Like, I don't know. Did somebody decide at the NFL like owners meeting that the only team that the Lions were allowed to beat was the Eagles? Because the Lions will go 5 and whatever it is now,
I
five
think
and
it's
11, 5 and
yeah,
12.
yeah. I think it's five
Yeah,
and
5 and
12
12
now.
now. But yeah, it's like they'll lose consistently, and then somehow, against all odds, beat the Eagles.
Right.
It's uncanny. Um, but yeah, so I do have to ask if we can start to wrap this up.
Oh yeah.
Because
Let's see if there's
yeah,
any
it's
like
just
quick
starting to
questions I can ask. It is getting
yeah
late. All right, let's see.
yeah.
All right.
I've been up for a very long time.
Oh, dude, I completely understand. Uh, okay, I guess let's just go with the last one on the list, and if you ever come back on, I can pull up the list again and ask some of the others. Do you
Sure.
believe in the theories that suggest our government is hiding something from us, such as supernatural entities, locations, or aliens?
Oh boy. I absolutely believe the government is hiding things from us. I don't think that will surprise anybody.
Oh, true.
Uh,
Definitely true. It
yeah.
definitely true.
No. I think that there's a number of things the government definitely hides from people. From very basic and mundane things up through the possibility of there being something in national parks that they don't want us to know about, some sort of
Right.
previously undiscovered or unadmitted to life form, or some sort of maybe they're doing genetic testing, or maybe they found a colony of humanoids who branched from the evolutionary tree, thousands and thousands of years ago, and now live in the caves and have developed, super sensitive hearing and the ability to like climb nearly vertical walls and things like that, like in the Descent movies.
Right.
You know, I don't know exactly what's out there. My point is, there's very obviously something going on
Right.
here. So if they're not admitting to it, but they must know about it, and it seems they know about it based on their behavior, I think there's definitely something being hidden from us. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I definitely agree with that. I agree with your theory that the national parks were created to contain something, not
Mhm.
irrationally, of course, but like just with the amount of evidence that you're able to draw up and
Yeah.
show, it leads to there being something there. Whether it's a like, I personally believe that Bigfoot or Sasquatch, the Wendigo, and those types of things are interdimensional beings. Like, the reason we
Yep.
can only see like one Sasquatch at a time is because like they're able to cross from our world to wherever they come from. And if we can somehow get there, that we'll find an entire race of just Sasquatches or Wendigos or any of those
Yeah. I mean,
things. Like,
that's not by any means a an unreasonable theory either. If you
right,
look at a lot of world religions and mythology and such, with the Irish and the Welsh having the other world, and the Norse having Yggdrasil, the Christians having heaven and hell, the Jews
right,
having heaven and Sheol, uh, the Muslims having heaven and hell, all the Abrahamic religions,
yeah,
and then if you look at, for example, the Vedic texts and the Bhagavad Gita and some of the other Hindu, I don't know nearly enough about them to authoritatively speak on them,
right,
but the Hindu religion has its own version of interdimensional travel, and there's a lot of almost every shamanistic religion in the world has the idea of a spirit world. So this is something humans have believed independent of one another for thousands and thousands of years.
right,
There is the it seems to me that if there is if we're getting to the point where we accept that there's multiple universes scientifically, where scientists are starting to say that yeah, the multiverse theory is worth researching and looking into. I think that to suggest that there's multiple universes but not multiple dimensions, and
right.
that you can't travel between them in some way is foolish. I think the idea
Definitely.
of Bigfoot being um, a semi spiritual or a spiritual being that has interdimensional capabilities,
Or even if
viable.
it's just
Um,
a race of humanoid creatures that's just more scientifically advanced than we are would be interesting.
yeah,
Which is definitely
yeah, I think it's definitely possible.
that's something that I want to explore more like down the line because I have this I told you I want to be a director one day And
Hmm.
one thing I just thought of while watching one of your videos actually is I want to make a trilogy of films. And in the first film, it's going to be just like a group of friends. They're going camping in Mammoth Cave National Park. Throughout the film, they encounter
Hmm.
Sasquatch. They see different like traces of him being there. We know that he's there because we see silhouettes of him in the dark. But I also I want
Hmm.
to get as close to Native American folklore as possible, while also giving some artistic touch. So I want to add like
Yeah, of course.
he can see like in infrared, which was why he was always avoiding the area of cameras, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Then sequel, bring in a Wendigo, make them fight a Wendigo, and make the Wendigo take somebody. And then in the third film, I don't know, make them fight, make Bigfoot fight the Wendigo, and then something like that. I think that would be interesting
Oh,
to
of course.
see. Um,
Well, it's also not completely unreasonable to suggest that,
right,
in Native American folklore, you would have a fight between a Sasquatch and a Wendigo. Like, they're not
especially
mutually exclusive beings.
right, and especially if the
Um,
Wendigo is attacking humans, and if Sasquatch is supposed to be a benevolent creature who
yeah,
like is friends to humans, it's not without reason to think that
yeah.
Sasquatch
How,
would fight a Wendigo to defend the humans. Now,
yeah. However, making a movie that's Sasquatch versus the Wendigo is going to be very difficult to do in any serious capacity.
well, that's
It
definitely
just sounds
true.
like it sounds like such a goofy movie.
Right, and that's kind of where I was gonna lean to. And now
Yeah,
I do plan on like talking to you about it specifically, not
it's like
today, but
Jesus
like
Christ
later.
Vampire Hunter.
Oh, that would be so freaking cool.
No, that's a movie.
That's a movie. Holy crap!
There is a movie called Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. It's on Amazon. It is like free to watch, I think, and it
Wow.
looks like it was shot on a camcorder in 2003.
Well, the plan for this series is to be like professionally made, and the whole buildup is
Yeah.
going to be like I'll spoil just a little bit of my idea just to give the idea. In the second film, I kind of want to have the Wendigo take one of the people, or make it a
Hmm.
skinwalker, and then in the third film, the other two have to go back try and find that person, and one of them runs
Hmm.
into Sasquatch. I don't know. Has he ever been known to talk in uh, old folklore,
Uh,
or is that just a Hollywood
so
thing?
there's definitely the idea of Sasquatch having a distinct type of call. There's also the idea that he can communicate telepathically.
Okay,
There's not a ton of people reporting being spoken to directly
okay,
in the human sense, in human language and human tongues. Um, but communication, absolutely.
gotcha. Because
Yeah.
I wanted to have like a little conversation. Like, I don't want to reveal like Sasquatch at all until like the final act of the third film. Because what I would love to have happen is the two humans, have to like step in and like help Sasquatch by lighting the forest on fire. Because from what I've
Hmm.
heard, that's the only way to kill a Wendigo. But at this point, I don't even
Yeah,
know how
it's
this is gonna go.
there's a few suggestions. It really depends on which you go with. Some suggest that you have to use um a superheated knife and carve out its heart. There's
Gotcha.
some that suggest you have to use that you have to burn the clothes it was wearing when it became a Wendigo. There's like
Okay.
but basically everything I've read suggests that dismemberment and then burning the body will do it. Uh,
Gotcha. Yeah, that's why.
So, and that's pretty general. It's like one of the most common tropes in folklore and horror movies, whatever.
Right.
No matter what you look at,
Because fire
fire.
is always
It,
considered the great cleanser.
exactly. If you burn something, you cleanse it. That is the idea. That's you know, and it may come from humans being aware for thousands of years that fire does if you burn something, it does clean it. Uh, like it cleans off any microbes. Even though germ theory wasn't invented until like the 1850s,
Right.
uh, like humans have known for a long time that things like alcohol and fire will uh, prevent wounds from being infected.
Right.
So it's reasonable to expect that early, not even necessarily early humans, but pre-industrial revolution humans were aware that fire had protective properties, and therefore if something was bothering you and it wasn't something that you needed to preserve, then burning it would fix the problem.
Right.
That's why they burned plague victim corpses. It's because they were like, we need to get rid of these bodies because these bodies, when there's these bodies, people get sick. We don't know why,
Exactly.
but if we burn the
do.
bodies, it'll clean them. Exactly.
Right.
But the thing is, they didn't know why what they were doing was the right thing to do, but it
Right.
was the right thing to do.
It's like task failed
It's kind of
successfully.
like exactly. It's
or
like
task successful. Well, how would that go? It would be
you aren't sick because you were committing sins, but the fix of burning the bodies did work.
right. Oh, what would it be?
Yeah.
Oh, right. It would be getting the correct answer with the wrong with the wrong algorithm. I think that's what I was going for. All right. Well, it is in fact getting late, so I'm going to let you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It has been a
Thanks for having me on.
blast. Anytime you have an open invitation to this show, anytime you want to come back on to talk about
Alright.
this stuff, finish up the list and whatnot, just shoot me a message, or I'll shoot you a message.
Sure.
And to the audience, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like. Maybe give us a 5-star review on wherever you watch your podcast, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called nowadays. I can never keep up with it. If you're watching the video aspect of it on YouTube, go ahead and give us a subscribe down below if you want to see more of this stuff, or if you just want to watch our gaming content. Once again, all of the links to my socials and our guest socials will be in the description down below if you want to go check them out on TikTok, check them out on Instagram, YouTube, wherever else, other links he gives me.
We're in a lot of places. I'm going to just give you the card, the link tree thing.
All right. Okay, so his link tree will be down in the description below.
If you want a Wendigo shirt, we have Wendigo shirts.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to get one of those.
We have Wendigo shirts that have original artwork that we commission. Yeah.
Okay,
so,
I'm definitely getting one of those.
Yeah, and we got prints and like mugs and everything. So it's some fun stuff.
I gotta get some Broken Valor t-shirts going. Probably not now.
Yeah.
Because I don't have enough.
Spring makes it super easy.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I hope to talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.